Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of CollaborEAT Live, a production of My Collaborative Team. My Collaborative Team is a not-for-profit corporation whose mission is to provide meaningful, dynamic, powerful, and thought-provoking resources to collaborative practice groups and practitioners worldwide seeking to transform the process by which people resolve disputes. CollaborEAT Live provides digestible content to both professionals and the public on a variety of topics relating to the collaborative process. Episodes consist of a variety of topics driven by our followers and our members. Today, we welcome Joryn Jenkins, who is here to talk about collaborative life planning. Joryn has practiced family law for nearly 40 years. In 1994, she founded Open Palm Law. She's the only practicing lawyer in Florida to have been awarded the prestigious A. Sherman Christensen Award, presented to her in the United States Supreme Court. Her focus in recent years has become how to utilize the collaborative process to change the way the world gets divorced. Joryn is currently Vice President of the Florida Academy of Collaborative Professionals. Welcome, Joryn.
Thanks, Ed.
Joryn, tell us, what is collaborative life planning?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing because as a lawyer counselor, I get a lot of clients who come to me with problems and they don't know how to solve them, and so they're seeking a process. One of the first things they want to know is that they're not alone, that this is not unusual, that they're not unique. Nobody wants to be unique because being unique is expensive. And so what I started hearing the same thing again and again and again. And the response that I started giving was, well, yes, we call this life planning. You know, you're not looking for a divorce. You're looking to iron out a situation. Something's come up, something traumatic. Your wife isn't handling it well. Your husband is on a different page from you. And the sorts of things that we saw coming up, I finally, they're the same thing time and time again. If you're in a certain age bracket, for example, you've got empty nester syndrome. Most people handle that fine. Most people, you know, it works out. They don't have to talk about things ahead of time. How we're going to handle this, how we're going to handle that. But then again, sometimes it results in problems, and these folks end up in marriage counseling. Sometimes the marriage counseling is all they need, but what is now happening more often is they're coming to me because they want to write up an agreement. People understand that if they don't write it up, they won't remember what they agreed on. Certainly the older you get, the more stuff you have clogging your brain. And so we started drafting these agreements. Now, originally it was just life planning. And I can show you, actually, if I can share my screen, I'll show you the first poster that I created on triggering events. Is that the poster you're seeing? No, you're not seeing it yet. Let me share it, and then you.
There we go.
So collaborative life planning. If you look at this poster, you'll see these things will ring a bell for you. Children boomeranging home, especially during COVID, for example. One of the parties retiring, both of the parties retiring, their lives changed dramatically, and they may not be prepared for those changes. They discover that one of them is infertile, and they've been planning on having children, and they had, you know, wrapped their brains around that, their hearts around that, and now they have a decision to make. How are they going to handle the infertility that one of them has been diagnosed with? The empty nest syndrome I already mentioned. Disability. One of the spouses may become disabled, or a child may become disabled and move back home, or impaired elderly parent. How many of us, certainly in my age bracket, I'm 64, had parents in their 90s who couldn't take care of themselves anymore and really needed to move in with us. And so how do we handle that? How does my husband handle that if it's my dad? How do I handle it if it's his dad? Am I going to be the one changing the bedpans? Who's going to pay for the nurse? Can we afford a nurse? Can dad help with the expenses? All of these issues. And so what started happening was I started meeting with not just the couple, but also with the child or the parent, and so we would have three-way meetings with me. And eventually, of course, being a collaborative lawyer, I realized that I'm not the only one who should be in this room. It would be very helpful if we had a financial professional or a mental health professional, a marriage counselor, actually, someone who does quite a bit of marriage counseling. I had a couple come see me who were in no way getting divorced. I kind of suspected that they might be, because that's kind of how I'm sensitized, because I do divorce work all day long. And no, they'd been married 17 years. They had 8 cats, all white. The wife wanted an agreement that if they broke up at some unknown time in the future, she would get the cats. He wanted to write up an agreement that assured that he would be able to see the cats. And by the way, the first time that I met with him, he had just come back from a plane ride to Ohio to pick up a new white stray. They were all white, and they were all kinds of white. They were long hair, short hair, red, blue-eyed, green-eyed, mismatch-eyed, brown-eyed. I mean, beautiful, beautiful felines. And then the other part of their agreement was they wanted some recognition that she had spent a lot of time putting him through med school. And he was now making more than she was. So eventually what I came up with, without the help of a financial neutral, I wish I'd had one, was an agreement that for as long as they were married, if they got divorced, from the point of the divorce forward, he would support her for that long, equalizing their salaries. So she was as you might have guessed, she was a veterinarian. And
that makes sense.
And I was kind of sitting there going, maybe this is just how he's going to get rid of the cats, because I'm not a cat lover, I am a dog lover. But no, he had just flown in from Ohio with a new cat, and he was quick to show me the cats on the phone, all the photos. I mean, it was truly awesome. But the agreement that we came up with was that he would equalize their salaries for as long as he made more than she did, for the same amount of time as they were married, if they got divorced. And that's the agreement.
So how does life planning fit into the collaborative process?
Well, I mean, come on, it's much better to do it collaboratively than it is just with me or just with a marriage planner. A marriage counselor, for example, is not going to be able to write up an agreement. They may be able to sketch out an agreement, but it's not going to be legally binding. And some of these folks truly want legally binding agreements, although there's also that aspirational component. But what a lot of non-lawyers don't understand is, if you write something up and it's your agreement, you can agree on something that no judge could ever do. So, can a judge order that he gets time sharing with the cats? Probably not. But if we write it up and it's a contract, that would be binding. Now, do I ever imagine that these folks are going to take this agreement to court? I don't think so. I did not get that vibe from them. And it's been 3 or 4 years, and I did check up on them a couple of years ago, and they were fine, married happily, apparently. But so we're getting these folks coming in, and they want this problem solved, and the best way to solve it is collaboratively, to my mind, at least with the 2 lawyers who signed an agreement that they won't go to court. And then, depending on the type of problem it is, either a financial neutral, a financial facilitator, or a mental health facilitator, and or both, because that's what will work best. And the benefits of this, I've also actually put into a poster. Let's see if I can find it. It's up on there it is, up on my screen. So the benefits. If you think it through, you will realize that there are a number of benefits. So we're augmenting financial awareness, retirement planning. How are we going to be able to afford certain things? Can we afford more than I think we can afford? So, we need the CPA, we need the CFP. the financial planner and or the budgeting person. We're strengthening the marriage by doing this kind of planning, because instead of being surprised by the stress and the problems that come up when dad moves in with you, you're forewarned. You can bring in a doctor to talk about it. You can bring in dad to talk about it if he's still competent. So we're resolving conflict before it happens. We're producing partnership agreements that people can live by throughout their marriage. Some of this planning, by the way, is temporary. For example, dad moves in and then he dies, or kid boomerangs home but is only there for a year. And what part of that agreement does she have? Is she going to be paying for the utilities? Is she going to pay for her own food? Is she going to pay for anything else? Is she going to do any of the chores? Those things can really cause tension if they're not addressed before the situation arises. And by producing partnership agreements that people can rely on, we're making them feel safe and secure. A, you're not the first one this has happened to. B, we have a solution for you. And C, this is the solution that you came up with. Here it is in writing. You can rely on this. And by the way, if you need to come back, we're here. We're always here for you. You can always come back. So kid moves out and there's no longer an issue there, and they want to readdress what's going on at the house. We can do that with you. Now it's retirement planning. Now it's empty nest syndrome all over again. I don't know, but every family is different and every family is unique. So we address the expectations. Remember, we're all saying these days, you've got to manage folks' expectations. That's what we're doing here. And of course, in the end, we're protecting children, whether they're adult children or still in the nest. We're protecting those kids by keeping those parents sane and happy with each other.
And this process does start with a participation agreement, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I mean, the collaborative life planning roadmap is very, very much the same. I tried figuring out how it differed, and I can show you what I've got. But when you look at it, you'll see it's really very similar to what we do as collaborative divorce professionals. Let me find it here. Oh, wow. Look at all the stuff I have on the machine. Life planning, benefits. Oh, yes, I think that's it. Tell me if this is the roadmap that you're seeing now.
Yep.
Okay. So, if you have a mental health facilitator, then you're going to create a personality inventory for each client. So we know how to talk to those clients. They have their own communication styles. We need to know what that is. We need to know what their triggers are. Same as in a divorce, just for a much more auspicious solution. The facilitator will work with each client to envision individual and joint long-term goals. If the facilitator is financial, if the issues are financial, then that's still true. The financial may also work with the clients to examine, and that's, if there's no facilitator, then that's all on the financial. And then both of the neutrals will assign homework to the clients to facilitate better decision-making. It's the same old collaborative approach to solving problems, right? And here we develop a 3 to 5 year plan. We really don't see these problems lasting longer than generally 3 years. Every once in a while, you'll get something like, and I've had this happen, a disabled child move back home, and then it's permanent. I had one of those. We worked on it. The child was disabled, but not mentally, just physically. And unfortunately, that one actually went to divorce, but it went to a collaborative divorce. So that was good. But they were unable to, because I can't say really because, but the child was the child of the father, not of the mother. And there was a lot of tension between the child and the mother that we could just not fix. It was not fixable. And dad opted to support his son. And so he let the marriage go.
So this process isn't always just for problem solving either. It's for taking away those problems that may come in the future, those typical issues that we see in divorce, which might include financial or children's issues. This is getting ahead of it and trying to make a comfortable road so that the marriage is successful, correct?
Well, this is how I actually came up with this, because I kept seeing the same problems causing divorce. And I kept thinking, well, wait a second, why didn't we get it in front of this? Why didn't we start talking about this before it caused so much angst and anger and anxiety and pain? Because, now that's all water under the bridge, and maybe you can't go back home again.
Right.
But if you get in front of it, then you solve the problem before it happens, hopefully.
Right. That's a great way to use the process. Joryn, you and I could talk about this probably for an hour, but our time is up. I want to thank you very much for joining us here on today's CollaborEAT Live. And I want to invite all of our viewers to check us out at mycollaborativeteam.com. If you have a topic you'd like to discuss on CollaborEAT Live, just write us at info@mycollaborativeteam.com. Thank you, Joryn, for joining us.
Thanks, Ed.